One thing I will give Dalton Reisner credit here, and I think that it's an important point, is this seems like it's something you can build from the offensive line. The success that's going to come to that 11 that we're talking about, the 11 doing and executing the way that they're supposed to, is going to start really with the offensive line. Some teams it's from the quarterback because a quarterback can make a average offensive line or average receivers better. Well, I don't think Drew Lock's there yet. I think one day he could be. Mm-hmm. But right now, I think that when the offensive line is mostly intact, they're talented enough to be able to help everybody else be better. Mm-hmm. If the offensive line is performing better, it gives more time to Drew Lock, maybe gives him a little more confidence. If the offensive line is performing better, the run game, especially in the first half when we're seeing guys get kind of blown off the ball, mm-hmm. I think the run game will get back on track, which, by the way, again, you go back and you look even just at this season. You go look back at the games where they were able to establish the run. I know that's kind of the joke, but establish the run in the first half. Mm-hmm. Drew Lock's stats, pretty good, especially in the first half. He was more consistent.
Every quarterback's going to be like that.
Well, it is, but it seems more so for him.
Right. And I think that Pat Shurmur and Rich Scangarello, let's do this way. Pat Shurmur and Rich Scangarello had fundamentally different beliefs on what the run game is. Rich Scangarello used the run game to protect the quarterback and then set you up for gain yardage and set things up to the play. Pat Shurmur fundamentally views the run game as that thing you do to make third downs more manageable. You're not wrong. And I'm not trying to dump on Shurmur, which it seems like I've kind of done this week. I'm not trying to dump on the guy. Like his father was a brilliant coach. He's a great coach. I'm not trying to dump on Pat Shurmur. But it kind of comes across that way. It feels like tokenism with the run game.
Well, that's kind of Andy Reid, isn't it? I mean, a little bit.
Kind of. Yeah. And the West Coast offense has been at its best when you've actually used the run game in ways to. You can still throw the ball plenty. You can still use the swing pass and the running backs in the run game as an extension of that. But you do have to run it effectively. You do have to have guys biting on that. You do have to make defenders think. You do have to make them react to what it is you're doing. Pre-snap motion is worthless if they know you're going to throw the ball anyway. You know? I mean, nobody's buying a fake jet sweep if you've never run a jet sweep. Like, nobody's buying that. They're just like, okay, well, they're putting that guy in motion. He's going to be out in the flats on the path. It doesn't make you think. It doesn't stress you as a player with what your coverage assignment is. And that's what that should be. That's the difference between Andy Reid and Andy Reid's disciples. Andy Reid, he stresses you out. That pre-snap motion, everything that they're doing ahead of time is to stress you out, make you think one thing, and make you do another thing, make you react to this. Broncos aren't doing that. They're coming out in static formations, bunched up. You might remove a guy, put a guy in motion to see, just to check the mic and the coverage. But there's not an intent to disguise what it is you're doing. It's almost arrogant in its approach because what you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to dictate to you. Well, these players aren't capable of that yet. The timing isn't there. This offense isn't capable of that for whatever reason. You want to blame that on execution, you want to blame it on whatever you want to blame it on. So, why aren't you emulating things that are successful in the modern era of football? You hit the nail on the head when you talk about the offensive line making everything better. That's absolutely right. And these two philosophies, by the way, are living examples of the games won and lost in the trenches.
100%.
Vic Fangio's whole philosophy is about not sending people. You've got to win in the trenches with that in order for that to be effective.
And there may come a point where, and I don't mean to make this sound like it's an either or, but there may come a point where all 11 guys aren't having to perform perfectly on every single play. And you can not taking plays off. I'm not saying that. I'm saying where you come to a point where it's like, okay, well, there are certain things when we go back and look at the film, this guy can do a little bit better job blocking down the field, say a wide receiver blocking downfield to help out a running back spring for a bigger gain, things like that. But that's not the point right now. And they are certainly not that team. And they need, I hesitate to say they need more support around Drew Lock. But Drew Lock, I think, puts too much on himself. Like, I think oftentimes he comes into these situations where he thinks, I'm going to be the next Patrick Mahomes, or maybe if I can't reach that level of performance, this team is going to flounder without me doing something extra. And it's like, well, one day you're going to have to be able to do that, but there are certain things that you're still doing when you lean on bad mechanics that are actually hurting this team. Like when you're trying to do something extra, like throwing off your back foot to force a ball into a situation that you know you shouldn't. And you said vocally afterwards that you needed to do better and it was embarrassing. Okay, well then those are examples right there where rather than say, okay, Drew, that's all on you. You need to be better. What if he didn't have pressure in his face 2 seconds into the snap?
Well, we've talked about that for weeks, though. We've said that flat out. And Drew Lock doesn't need to play a hero ball. He doesn't need to put the weight of the world on his shoulders.
That's it.
Somebody needs to get in Drew Lock's ear and say, I don't need a big play. I need a first down.
Yeah.
You know, that this is what we need right now. We need to move the football. Don't worry about the splash plays. Those will come. Get the consistency. Get the first down. I understand you're getting the center dumped in your lap on, because they're bringing the Mike and the Sam up the A gaps.
But that's going to keep happening.
Well, how do we protect that?
Every team is seeing exactly how to attack this team.
It's the blueprint. So what do you do to fix that?
Right.
The screen game. Where is it? Put Melvin Gordon up there. Keep Melvin Gordon in and put him up there. He steps in front of the quarterback and he's taking the heat on that. He's the backstop for that. All right. Take Phil Lindsay. You can put him on the field. Run him in jet motion out of the slot. Get one of those linebackers chasing him going side to side. Pull them out of the equation. What else can you do? Spread the field out. Put 5 wide out there a couple times. Do what he did back at Missouri a couple of these plays. Sprinkle those in there. You spread it out like that, now all of a sudden you've got maybe one backer still in there, depending on if you've got a running back in there or not. If not, they're going to go empty back there. You take that out of the equation. How do you stop people from doing something? Don't keep doing the same things over and over again. Change up what you're doing to take that out of the equation.
Drew seems like he does better also when he's in motion, when he can move.
Yeah, he's better on the run. He's better off the boot.
When he's off boot and play action, we already know the numbers in play action. I mean, it's staggering the
tempo
difference.
And play action. That's what he does. He's used to that from college. So take your offense and adapt it to the strengths of your quarterback until he either gets comfortable with what you're going to do or he's not capable of carrying an NFL offense, and find someone who is.
The difference in quarterback rating for Drew Lock between play action and not, we've discussed this before, a 114.5 NFL rating versus a 63.5.
Which is just about the same thing at tempo. He's about 40 points higher at tempo. And they insist on going. It's like watching, and I don't want to dump on Pat Shurmur. But the problem for me is like, why aren't you changing these things? Because you know what it reminds me of? The inflexibility of Adam Gase.
Bingo. Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah.
Adam Gase had a great offense with a quarterback who was incredibly cerebral and able to get rid of it quickly, and it hasn't been the same since. And he has been inflexible in his adaptation, and he's been inflexible in the way that he does it. It's the same offense he ran with Peyton Manning. He tried to shoehorn Ryan Tannehill in there, and Tannehill had some decent seasons down there in Miami, but he ended up getting hurt because there was no protection back there. He was taking shots. And you go up there to New York, and you look at this, and he takes Sam Darnold, one of the most promising prospects in football, and turns him into something where the Jets fans are doubting that he's even capable of carrying an offense. Which, watch what happens now. That dude's going to wind up in San Francisco and lead them to glory for a decade.
Another thing I want to point out here with Drew Lock in play action versus not, yards per attempt.
Yeah.
9.1 versus 5.8.
About right.
Whew. I mean, and you can look at the touchdown to interception, 2-0 on play action, 4-6 on non.
There you go.
Now, again, causation, all that stuff, he throws I can't say all 6 interceptions were because he didn't have play action.
No.
But I'm also saying that he doesn't throw interceptions on play action. He's comfortable doing it.
Right. And it freezes the safety for a fraction of a second because they might have to think about the run. You just, every little thing that you do to stress a defender makes your offense that much better.